There's been 467 updates, official documented updates to Google since 2002. 441 of those updates have happened in the last 3 years. I think that gives you an idea of how much has happened in Google in the last 3 years. It's become a very volatile index, but some things have remained the same. Some things have remained true for Google, and that's been brand. Brand is the most important thing for Google. And the best way to be a brand, or to be a brand in Google, is to adopt a mature content marketing strategy. What is content marketing? There's a lot of definitions of content marketing out there. I think depending on which angle you come from the PR, from the social, from the SEO, from the strategy, everyone's got a different idea of content marketing. It's largely about creating and sharing valuable content. You want to engage customers, you want to get them to trust you. You want to create the kind of content that makes them like, live, love your brand. What is content? Again, this is a massive subject for people. Content can be everything. Content can be a survey. Content can be an FAQ section on your website. Content can be white papers. It can be videos. Why is content important? Well, it delivers. Delivers on lots of different fronts. We've already talked about SEO. Kevin's study showed that links are still the most important thing for Google. The link graph is very much alive, and good content gets you links. More importantly, good content gets you good links. From a social perspective, we've talked about the importance of social recommendations. Well, how are you going to get social recommendations without good content? What are people going to share on your website? Good content encourages those plus ones, it encourages those shares. PR has always been about generating buzz for your business, always been about generating news. Content feeds the PR department. It feeds that news generation system. We know that content is kind of becoming the new advertising, really. It's a new consideration cycle. People are fed up with traditional advertising methods, with banners. They become a bit blind to this sort of blatant sell. Editorial content brings them into your brand. It's a soft sell. It can be places where traditional advertising can't be. Your publishing network. This sounds kind of basic, really. If you're going to produce content, you need somewhere to publish it to. That sounds obvious, but then I've often found in my experience that this presents quite a big problem. There's lots of places that you can publish content, of course. We're talking about websites, we're talking about subdomains. A lot of people do this on their social presences. The important thing to remember, really, about social presences is that you don't own those properties. And this is something that I think we sometimes forget. If we've got an over-reliance on Facebook for your publishing network, what do you do when Facebook changes the rules? This is working on a content platform that you don't own. So it's important to have a balance here. I'm not saying don't use social presences. I mean, certainly the Dancing Pony campaign for 3 would be nothing without YouTube. So don't get me wrong on that point. I'm just saying have this at the back of your mind that you need a balance here. You need a balance of being able to publish on your own web properties, and the social properties that you use should be your outposts or embassies that you don't have an over-reliance on. Develop your publishing network. Do you speak with one voice as your brand? This has become increasingly important because lots of different teams within your organisation are producing content. You might have an exec in the SEO team that's producing content. You might have someone in the PR team. You might have someone on the web dev team who's also writing content for your website. Is it coming from your organisation as one consistent voice? The third point, audit your content library. It's very likely that you actually have a lot of content already. Your PR department's probably producing it. Your internal marketing department's probably producing it. You've probably got a load just gathering dust on a hard disk somewhere that no one's really aware of. You also may find content pieces that people within your organisation are very proud of. I think John Lewis produces the Gazette, which is an internal magazine for the business. It's one of the oldest internal magazines around. And they now use some of that content to push out to the web, to push out to customers, to make people advocates. Another thing you need to audit is the people within your organisation. Who have you got within your organisation that has a good author rank? When you audit your organisation, you may find some of your employees have massive Twitter followings, massive Facebook followings. Do you know who's valuable in your organisation that you can make an advocate for your brand? Benchmarking your competition. This is something you need to do in every area. Have an idea of who's doing content really well. What content are they producing? So it's a very good idea to look at your competitors, get inspired by competitors, but also learn from their mistakes. The fifth point, having a 360-degree approach to content. The easy and the practical way of making that happen, despite all the processes, is a content calendar. And I know it sounds like a really obvious tip, but get everyone, literally onto the same page. It's important to remember that even though your competitors can copy your content, they can't copy your processes. And this is a key thing for you to think about as you go forward with this strategy. If you develop the processes that work, that will set you apart from your competitors, far more than your individual releases. Sixth point is the think and act like a publisher. You've got a lot of people telling you this. You have to be publishers now. You have to think and act like a publisher. Produce content that you're proud of as an organisation, and that probably means filtering it through a process, getting somebody who signs this off, somebody who copy edits it. If you don't get a professional copy editor, maybe you use a freelance one, maybe even get some of your secretarial staff to be copy editing this, but work out a process that works for your organisation that absolutely means that everything you release publicly is going to be at the best standard it can be. You have to think about curating content, and again it comes back to this point of this whole conference. We create content for this conference in terms of this speech, we create interviews, we create a video which will go up online. We're actually tweeting about this event, so we're creating content on Twitter. Think about all the ways you can reuse content in different ways, different platforms to get the maximum value out of it. You absolutely need to look at your content releases and work out what good looks like. That means having an idea of a range of soft and hard KPIs. Good brands produce good content. If you want to get taken seriously by Google as a brand, you have to act like a brand. You do the kind of things that get you links from the Daily Mail. You do the kind of things that get you multiple links from hundreds of people because they genuinely love what you're doing. This is what a real brand does. Act like a brand. You've got to build your publishing network and your processes. A lot of this is process driven. You need to think about how you're going to produce content, where you're going to put it, and what the processes are to allow you to do this. There's two kind of degrees of content. There's responsive content, where you kind of react to things that are happening around you, or you may find that's too difficult to go into straight away, so you've got a more kind of pre-planned approach, which again is absolutely fine. Work out what works for your organisation. Filter down your communication strategy to ensure you've got one voice across the whole of your brand. You need everyone to be on the same page as far as your values go, and the content you produce that supports those values. Audit your content library, know what you've got, know what assets you've got, understand where you haven't got assets, where you probably need to spend a bit of time to get those developed. Benchmark your competitors and learn from their campaigns. Everyone's starting on this path. I can honestly say, looking around, that these are very early days for a mature content strategy. But understand who you think is on that path, who's doing it well, and get inspired, learn from them. Encourage market integration around shared content calendar. It's a very practical step. Get a content calendar that's not owned by your PR team, not owned by your social team. Get everyone on the same page with the shared content calendar. And then adopt editorial processes to maintain the quality. Just make sure what you're doing is good. As I say, good brands produce good content. They don't just produce lots of content. There is a difference. And then measure activities to make sure you're building on your successes. You're working out what's working for you, and then you're building on those content releases to make them better, or even to re-release them on an annual basis. That's it. Thank you.